Hello, friends. So, 3.15 is hard. I understand. I died a lot early starting on, and I did not know how to adjust. It was rough, man. Like, between the permanent curses on the maps, getting frozen all the time, getting ignited all the time, the 50% more damage on poisons. Whew, it's a spicy league. It's been challenging, and I totally understand that the challenge may not be for everyone. And, I think it's up to folks that want to do the experimentation, and it's our job to make the game accessible and easier for all of you guys. And that is what I want to do here. So what I want to present in this video is just showing you guys the things that I've thought about, the things that I've learned, the adaptations that I've made, and the things that I've thought about making in the future. And hopefully I can help you guys adjust a little bit and make this league feel easier. And I just want to get everyone as excited as possible for playing the game. And with these adjustments, make the game feel a lot better. It's honestly putting the time into building my character this way and making these adaptations has made it feel a billion times better. I was feeling pretty down as well at the beginning of the league. Oh man, my first character was rough. But things are feeling really, really good. I'm doing things on a budget successfully, and I'm really happy about that. I'm going to go through a list of all of the different things that I've thought about, different categories of ways that we can adjust to these ailment and curse issues. And then at the end of the video, I will show you guys how I have built this character and the things that I have made to make this character feel really, really good. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we look at for, the top level thing when you start making your character, what class is it going to be? How do we deal with these ailments and these curses? What is the best choice that you can make for getting around these things? At the top level, your Ascendancy, right? That is going to be a thing that has a very strong bearing on how you have to deal with these things. So let's just go through them one by one and talk about where they have defensive characteristics and what you might want to do as you build your character. Assassin, all he's got is take no extra damage from critical strikes while elusive. Nothing here for ailments. That's all he's got. The Trickster has Escape Artist, which is cannot be stunned while you have Ghost Shrouds. Very, very nice, but that's all he's got. He doesn't have anything else there. Then the Saboteur, he is one of the stars, the standout stars. There's a reason why Ice Trap and Seismic Trap and all those guys have been so effective this league, at least, starting off, because with Pyromaniac, he is immune to both Ignite and Shock. So getting two of those ailments out of the way, you can just build around the other ones, and it's very, very comfortable. So if you want to play a Trapper or a Miner, consider that. Obviously, you're going to be looking at Saboteur already, and then Pyromaniac automatically just gives you a lot of defense right there. Deadeye has nothing for ailments. She just has Wind Ward for 3% less damage taken, so 30% less damage taken, and Focal Point is another 25% less damage taken. Pretty nice, but nothing to do with ailments. Now, Pathfinder is a standout star. I'm actually surprised we're not seeing more builds with her. I do think we're going to see more and more as time goes on, as more people experiment with the poisons. So she has Master Alchemist, remove all elemental ailments when you use a flask. Pretty good. And then on the other side, Master Surgeon removes bleeding and corrupted blood when you use a flask. So if you play a Pathfinder that can go into both Master Alchemist and Master Surgeon, you're already taken care of. Raider, she's also a standout star. Avatar of the Veil is significantly nerfed, cut in half, in fact, but still 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments while phasing, which is, because of Course Infusion, 100% of the time. That is just incredible. All you have to do is find another 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments, and you are effectively immune to getting them. There are ways to have increased chance of getting ailments, so everything above 100% is still nice, but once you have 100%, you can effectively consider yourself immune to them. The one thing that Slayer has is unaffected by bleeding while leeching, which he's basically always leeching. Pretty nice. Also cannot be stunned, so those are taken care of. You will have to think about all of the other elemental ailments and curses and all that, so that is a consideration. On Champion, first to strike, last to fall is really nice. The problem is it's not super, super reliable to always be gaining adrenaline. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. You can't always rely on it. But when you do gain adrenaline, where like if something really bad happens and you lose a lot of life, then you will just automatically remove all those ailments and you're good to go. So it's pretty darn nice. It's all elemental and non-elemental ailments, which includes poison and bleeding. So it is a really, really good champion. I think is a standout star in this regard. You just have to make sure you're playing around that low life level. If you're under low life, say you're using something like Petrified Blood and you're always down there, it could be a little rough. Gladiator really doesn't have anything. He can avoid getting stunned, but other than that, you're really just relying on blocking and doing counterattacks. So that is very, very strong, but he's going to be a little bit weaker too. You're going to want to build around those ailments a little bit better. I know most people don't want to play Juggernaut. Unless you're doing accuracy stacking, it's kind of slow and not too fun for too many people, but Unstoppable does take care of a lot of things. Because his action speed cannot be modified below the base value, he is effectively immune to freeze and chill, and he can't be stunned. So that takes care of a lot and temp chains as well. So he can kind of deal with a lot of things with just Unstoppable, and that frees up a lot of value and a lot of points for building around other things. And I think that actually makes Juggernaut stronger than he has been in the past relative to other Ascendancies, because he doesn't have to put as much resources into dealing with the ailments. So kind of a cool adaptation that you can do there. Now, I know he's not the most exciting, so that's a your mileage may vary type of thing. Berserker is just go really fast and do a lot of damage. That's his thing, and take a lot of damage. The only thing that he really has is the Rite of Ruin for cannot be stunned while he has at least 25% rage or 25 rage. So okay, but yeah, you're gonna have to really make sure you don't get frozen and poisoned and all that. Chieftain is unaffected by Ignite. Do be careful that unaffected doesn't mean you are not ignited. So there may be things that say, such as do more damage against ignited targets. That doesn't, so you can still become ignited. You're unaffected by it, but you can still have it. So something may happen. There are situations where you are still considered ignited. So do be careful about that wording. But you don't take any damage from it, and then you can build around the other ailments for him. Inquisitor, he ain't got nothing anymore. I'm sorry. That's just the life he lives. Or the life that he doesn't have, I guess. Illuminated Devotion on the Hierophant. Non-damaging ailments have 50% reduced effect on you while you have Arcane Surge. So that is Scorched, Chilled, Frozen, Brittle, Shocked, and Sapped. Actually pretty wild. So you can still, especially if you use the new Aquamarine Flask, you can effectively make Frozen do nothing to you. And by using Soul of the Brine King or Soul of Aracali, you can reduce the effect of Chill and Shock so low that they have 100% reduced effect. So you can combo that with the other things that I'll be talking about later in the video, and it's actually very, very strong. So the Guardian is very special in this regard, as he is the only Ascendancy that has any reduced curse effect on him. And 80% reduced effective curse is crazy. With the other places where I'm going to show reduced effective curse, you can get more than 100% reduced effective curse on him very, very easily, making him effectively immune to them. With that said, he doesn't have anything for ailments, so you do have to be more wary of those. But being immune to curses in today's day and age is actually huge. I can't even tell you the number of times that I've died to vulnerability until I solved for that one with the Flask. Occultist, which is one of my personal favorite Ascendancies, is particularly strong this league because of Frigid Wake cannot be chilled or frozen, and Vile Bastion cannot be stunned while you have Energy Shield. So if you do a cold or cold damage over time build that is also Energy Shield based, you are already dealing with frozen, chilled, and stun, which is very, very strong. And in fact, Frigid Wake also gives you nearby enemies, chilled enemies, deal 10% reduced damage with hits, and she'll just be periodically freezing people near her. It is one of the strongest nodes in the game, bar none, in my opinion. Very incredible. Elementalist, she ain't got... they took it away, man. So Necromancer is one of the meta Ascendancies. Honestly, she is like a macro meta Ascendancy to the point where she has been effectively the first or second most played Ascendancy for a long time, at least since Legion League, possibly longer than that. So she's just in such a good place, it doesn't even matter. And in fact, she's even stronger now than she's been in a while, just relative to the other classes. And so what she has is Mistress of Sacrifice will just give her offerings on her already, so she can have Bone Offering. She gets a lot of block out of that. And then Bone Barrier actually makes her immune to bleed. So that's actually just really, really strong. She doesn't have to deal with bleeding. And then, you know, she just doesn't really care about getting frozen or anything like that too much because she has a bunch of minions around her, very, very strong, immune to bleed, and you can just deal with like maybe some freeze and shock, and you're just not going to die on her anyway. So she's just so strong, she doesn't need anything anyway. I know a lot of people forget about her, but the Ascendant does exist in the game, and I just did a quick perusal. I haven't played Ascendant in a while myself, and the only thing that I saw is from Juggernaut, she cannot be chilled, and cannot be stunned. So not bad. Scion beware, I guess, is what I would say. So that's all the Ascendancies. I may have missed one or two small things, but those are the big high-level picture things. Definitely take these things into consideration when you start putting your character together. Look at the different immunities that you can get. Think about the ailments that may bother you the most, and consider taking Ascendancy that gives you immunity to that so you don't have to worry about it, and you can consider other options. All right, next up is the Pantheon options. I think people may be sleeping on these a little bit, so I just wanted to draw attention to that right away instead of leaving it as like a footnote. So as you can see, what I've chosen is using Soul of the Brine King with the 30% increased stun and block recovery, and cannot be stunned in the last 2 seconds after you've been stunned. It's actually really, really good for not worrying about stun anymore. Incidentally, I have gotten more stun and block recovery than I really would want because I've had some bad luck crafting my gear, to the point where I have 81% stun and block recovery. I get mini stunned once in a while, a couple times a map, and that's about it. I almost don't even notice getting stunned. It's pretty cool. If you can fill a couple suffixes with that, maybe worth not sleeping on that. In addition to that, I also have the 50% reduced effective chill on me. You know, it's not 100%, but it's enough where it doesn't bother me as much as it normally would, and I have chosen to effectively ignore it at this point. You may have noticed that I haven't worried about getting the cannot be frozen if you've been frozen recently. If you got frozen in the first place, you're probably just going to be dead anyway. And in fact, as you can see, I'm using Arctic Armor, which they just recently buffed this patch to make you immune to being frozen. So I don't even have to worry about that anymore. And I am now 50% reduced effective chill and immune to frozen, and I have 81% stun and block recovery with cannot be stunned multiple times in 2 seconds. I kind of have dealt with all of those things just with that alone. The reduced effect of shock on you and reduced shock duration, if you have other reduced effect of ailments on you, is very, very strong, and it will make shock not too scary. I worry about stun and chill more than dying to shock, although I should probably take this one instead, because honestly, I think I die to shock more, but I hate being slowed, so that's why I've gone with Brine King, but this is also a very, very good option. I have chosen the new upgraded Soul of Yugal as the minor Pantheon. The 20% reduced effective curses on me, that's all I have for reduced curse effect. But honestly, it's kind of good enough to make me live through things I otherwise wouldn't. That is what I've chosen to do. It comes with the benefit of if you are dealing with chills or freezes, you have the 50% chance to reflect it. With me already not having to deal with chill too much, makes chill actually pretty minor in all things considered. Soul of Aberrath has 50% reduced ignite duration on you. Very, very good. And if you're moving, you're already taking 5% reduced fire damage from that. That will honestly ignites. The scary thing is usually how long it lasts. And so if you can cut that in half, it's actually not too bad. This is the new upgraded Soul of Ralakesh with the Captured Drek, the Apex Hunter. If you are able to live through having 5 Corrupted Bloods, this can actually be really nice. If you are a character that can leech a lot or has a lot of life gain on hit, you can just live with 5 Corrupted Bloods and not even have to worry about a Corrupted Blood Jewel or a Staunching Flask. And then lastly, this is traditionally my favorite on builds that I'm not able to cap my Chaos Res on, is the Soul of Shikari. So 5% reduced Chaos damage taken, period. That's actually huge. Even especially if you're already Chaos Res capped, that will just make Chaos damage do even less to you. In addition to that, poisons, 50% less duration, and you can only cap out at having 5 poisons maximum. That ensures that if you get shotgunned like the snakes from Al Hazmin, you don't have to worry about just taking on 20 poisons really quickly and dying. Nothing super game changing in terms of the Pantheon, but if we combine that with some of the other things that I am showing in this video, we can basically reach 100% reduced effect or 100% avoidance And it's all about utilizing all of the tools that the game has given us to take advantage of. All right, so next up is gear. And I think that this is a thing that people haven't really been thinking about too much. There is actually just a lot of it. There's actually a lot of it. And with the new Veil modifiers, we have a ton of tools. I actually think, if you're willing to craft around it and like easily craft, we can reach 100% ailment avoidance, even on non-easily ailment avoidant classes pretty easily, as long as you're willing to craft around it. And it's all about making, I understand, it's difficult. We have to give up some damage most of the time, but it's actually pretty easy to craft around. For example, a friend of mine, just to get around it very early this league, he bought just some early on body armors that had the base that he wanted, threw some Veiled Chaos Orbs at it that were only costing him 3 to 5 chaos each, and he found a body armor, this prefix, 30% chance to avoid elemental ailments and 30% chance to avoid being stunned. He used that in conjunction with some other things to reach 100% avoidance very easily, and he wasn't even playing a class that could easily avoid all of the ailments. Similarly, on boots, we have the Shaper prefix that if you elevate it, it goes from 25 up to 35% chance to avoid elemental ailment. There's the Veiled prefix, cannot be frozen, done, and 30% chance to avoid being chilled. Or there's the Craft, which is 80% chance to avoid being frozen. So if you take you just have 20% chance to avoid being any ailments in addition to this 80% chance, frozen is taken care of. A pretty cool one here that people may not be thinking about too much is a suffix on gloves. It's just crafted. It's a 25% reduced effect of chill and shock on you. Remember, we also have access to 50% reduced effective chill on our Pantheon and 30% reduced effective of shock on our Pantheon. So we combine that and we're already stacking that reduced effect there. So if you want to go that direction, you can really choose if you want to, you can do a mix and match of however you want, but you can go for avoidance or you can do reduced effect. On our helmets, we can essence craft to get up to 44% chance to avoid either frozen, ignited, or shocked. Pretty good. We also have chance to avoid being frozen, ignited, and shocked on our belt. So as always, we just want to get up to about 100%. And we're going to be combining this with our flask options a little bit later. And we can easily fully deal with some of these and then choose the other ones that perhaps we find more scary or less scary to put the 100% chance to avoid or reduced effect on. And then lastly, for the gear is we have 23% chance to avoid as a suffix on a shield. And I know a lot of people are using shields right now, or a crafted suffix that right there, that is 18%. So just using a couple of these different places that I've already shown you guys, you can reach very close to 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments. It just takes a little bit of a sacrifice in a couple places of your gear and you can reach 100% just like that. Regarding gear for dealing with curses, as far as I know, I just did a quick perusal of the modifiers that we have access to. I didn't see any reduced effect of curse on you for rare gear. However, there are some very well-known and now standout uniques that people are relying on this league. Adzir's Reflection, it's expensive. It's the classic. It just means you are unaffected by curses. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Pretty nice. The Kikazaru, this ring, traditionally was a 1 elk ring that no one ever wore, and we're actually seeing a decent amount of people wearing it this league. You can combine the increased mana regen rate for doing something on a mana stacker with 40% reduced effective curses on you is pretty huge. I've been seeing a fair number of people double wield these things, and they just don't worry about curses too much. So pretty cool. In addition, there's the Thief's Torment. You can only wear one of them, but it ain't bad. I don't see too many people using this though. Kind of a pretty big downside of only wearing one ring. But similarly, there's the Viridi's Veil, which is a pretty cool helmet from the Maven, which was not particularly popular last league. It was very cheap, but more and more people are using it now because you can just put a magic ring in your right slot and then become hex proof entirely, which is very good. Folks on the right side of the tree definitely have a little bit of an advantage here for taking points in their passive tree. The big standout nodes that we're seeing this league that people are taking that people have not taken before, which I find very interesting, is the crystal skin nodes. So each node here, so this small one will give you 5% avoidance. Each one of these gives you 30% avoidance for fire, cold, and lightning. And then this one will give you another 15% avoidance. So that's 20 plus 30. You have 50% chance avoidance right here. So we're seeing especially a lot of raiders, which we're definitely seeing even more raiders this league than in the past. They are then also fully filling out the crystal skin node, and they just have 100% chance to avoid right there. They don't even have to take all of these. If they take thick skin, which is very, very popular, they'll go for wind dancer, thick skin, and then they will drop a couple of these nodes because they don't have to worry about them as much. Very, very easy for a raider, especially to hit 100% avoidance. If you are a witch or a shadow, you can consider going to elemental focus. That is 10% chance to avoid elemental ailments right there. Not very huge, but it is helpful. And if you are using a shield, you can get another 20% here. So if you are an elemental shield wearing shadow or a witch, you can grab both elemental focus and arcane swiftness, and you already have 30% chance avoidance. You grab one of those chest mods and the boot mods, and you're basically at 100% just like that. It's a little bit of a sacrifice to build around it. It is kind of conditional, but that is an option if you are able to do it. If you're able to use an astral projector, this is a great option. 30% chance to avoid in just a single ring slot. So this can really push you to the next level, especially if you are a spellcaster, especially if you're a Nova spellcaster, perhaps someone using Ice Nova. Kind of a weird conditional one that I just found while going through the elemental ailment page is there is a helmet enchant for 20% chance to avoid elemental ailments while you have elusive. Might be worth considering that if you're a shadow or a ranger who is able to be elusive all the time. If you are a dodge-based character, especially, or if you just want to get even more elemental avoidance, Elegant Form will only cost you 3 points if you put it on a small cluster jewel. It is a strong consideration, both for getting dodge and 30% chance to avoid elemental ailments. For curses on the passive tree, there's not too much. There's especially not too much if you're not a Templar, but just so you know what is available to you, we do have Sanctum of Thought. It is just a single point that you can take if you're a Guardian. I think this is kind of going to be the go-to if you're playing a Guardian. That, with the 80% that you get from your Ascendancy, can just give you 100% reduced effect curse right there. So Asylum here is made for Inquisitor. You, when on consecrated ground, will have 40% reduced effect of curses on you total. Pretty good. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but it's enough to probably just make the curses not be too scary, and you can kind of half ignore them. And then I mentioned it a little bit earlier while I was going over the Pantheons, but I am using the new revamped and even better Arctic armor, which now makes you immune to frozen. Also, while you are stationary, you take less fire and physical damage, which will make you take less bleed and ignite damage. It's just really good, and especially since I, on my character, use Blight, so I am standing still a lot of the time, it's really good for me. So do consider Arctic armor if you can fit it into your build. It is only a 25% mana reservation, and if you have any RMR anywhere else, and if you are able to afford an Enlighten this league, man, it is crazy, huh? It will be very, very nice, and I am a big fan of it. I've loved Arctic armor for a long time, and as soon as I saw that buff, I just said, I knew I had to use it. So that is all of the non-Flask avoidance stuff that I know of right now. So let's talk about the Flasks. So Flasks have changed a lot. It's been an adjustment. It took me a long time to stop pianoing. It's only been the past few days that I've really embraced the new world of it. Basically, I built my character with the idea that I just assume that I don't have Flasks, is the way to think about it. And I know it feels bad, and who knows, maybe the argument should be for removing Flasks entirely and just make them passive things, because the way that I've chosen to think about them is the only active flasks that I have are my Life Flask and my Quicksilver Flask. They are the only buttons that I press. These 3 flasks I have set to triggers. I never, ever, ever press 2, 3, or 4. I do not press these buttons. I press 5 for my Quicksilver, and I press 1 for my Life Flask. And other than that, these guys are on automatic trigger. Now, yes, we lose the fact that I will not always have phasing and dodge. I will not always have my armor, but I know that I will always have flasks that effectively hard counter these ailments, which is actually pretty cool. And it's led me to be able to think about how I play the game a little differently, right? So instead of worrying about, well, I'm immune to freeze because I'm using Arctic armor, but in the past, right? If you were about to open a strongbox that it was unidentified, you don't know if it was going to freeze you, you would piano, right? You would press all of your flasks, you would open the strongbox and then run away, and you just knew that you'd be immune to frozen from your flask, and you would just hope that nothing else scary would be there, right? And now, because I'm immune to freeze here, or if I had a trigger on freeze and of heat flask, then it would just trigger automatically on opening that strongbox and then make me immune to freeze for 4 seconds afterwards. I actually really like the change. Now, I definitely agree the 1 second, the 1 second immunity that they released with was crazy, but the 4 second immunity, I really do like it. So the way that I have this set up is I have use when become ignited on a immunity to ignite and remove burning flask. So anytime ignite hits me, it's just gone and I'm immune to it. And this is on a flask that gets almost 3 uses out of it. So I don't even have to worry about that being available. It's just pretty much always going to be available for the duration of a fight. Similarly, I have a quartz flask set up for bleeding with staunching. So I just know that if I get hit with a bleed, the flask will go off. I go immune to it. Everything is great. My Quicksilver flask, the trigger, you just ignore it. I had a trigger on it previously, and I just had to spam something on it that would never trigger, so I could just manually press it. And I said this in my previous video, but I actually think the nerf to adrenaline is very cool because it encourages us to use other suffixes, right? Because previously adrenaline was everything. No one ever looked at another suffix. Now, yeah, what is it, like 8% movement speed is nice, and adrenaline will make you run a little bit faster. But you know what the quality of life that I get here is? I get 12% times another 25% there, right? So I have 15% increased cast speed during this flask, and that actually is really nice for making my flame dash really, really spicy and fast, right? Pretty cool. And, sometimes nerfs do open up the design space and for the choices for us to make. Now, this is a really cool thing that I am a big fan of. So on my character, I do have 76% chaos res. I am super fully capped. And so I am able to use the Forbidden Taste, which recovers 97% of my life on use, 100% if it's perfectly divined. And I take 25% of max life as chaos damage, but 76% of that is resisted by my chaos res. So I'm really only taking a little bit amount of damage. And so I'm getting back, like 90% of my life over 4.8 seconds. Pretty cool. I do realize that I have 2 quartz flasks here, but these ones, these are just trigger flasks. I assume that they're never up. This one, if I take a savage hit, boom, it'll automatically trigger. My life regen will pop off. It will go crazy, and it's just really cool. It's just a regen that triggers when you take a big hit. Last flask is a Panicked Divine Life Flask of Curing. This one is it's a panic flask. If I see my life get low, I'll hit it. And poison, since I have really high chaos res, kind of isn't a concern for me. But if I do notice that I start stacking a bunch of poisons, I can just tap that as well. I honestly really like the new flask system. Now, I agree the amount of charges that we get is pretty low. It does feel rough. I especially feel it, right? Because I can't use my Quicksilver too often, and it kind of feels rough, but I do really like the system. Oh, and speaking of flask charges, this is an additional tech that you can use. I didn't really feel comfortable sacrificing a full flask slot for this, but if you want to, you can use an Overflowing Chalice with increased duration from the Enkindling Orb. This will make it so your other flasks will get tons and tons of twice as many charges when perfectly divined. It will get double the charges. So these guys will regen. You'll actually have more flask charges than you previously would have had by using the Overflowing Chalice, and it can last like 10 seconds. So it's pretty much always up. If you kind of stagger the use of it with your other flasks, you will have a ton of charges, but it is a sacrifice of your other flasks. That said, it is a sulfur flask. You do get Consecrated Ground, and you do get 40% increased damage. So it's not a bad flask to have. So that's kind of a wide shot view of how I'm currently understanding the world and the system of elemental and cursed ailments right now. So I just wanted to go over how I built this character and how I'm dealing with it. So you've already seen a good chunk of it during this video so far, but just to do a full overview. what I am doing is using Arctic Armor to become fully immune to freeze. I don't even have to worry about that anymore. And with that, I have Soul of the Brine King and kind of accidentally 81% stun recovery. So I'm kind of don't worry about stun. I'm kind of immune to stuns. With the Nasser Lion of the Seas upgrade, I have 50% reduced effect of chill on me. So chill, it's still kind of annoying, but it's not a super killer. It's just a little bit of a slowdown. I'm using Soul of Yugal with the upgrade from Varhesh to give me 20% reduced effective curses on me. It does kind of suck. You know, I have to admit, I do roll over maps that have curses more. Rolling maps is more annoying now. I've chaos spammed maps a little bit more to get over those like really scary maps, but the Soul of Yugal I found is very helpful. 50% fewer chills actually hitting me, and the reduced effective curse is really nice. And then as we saw with the Flasks, I have anti-bleed and anti-ignite. So I am immune to freeze. 50% of chills don't hit me, and then the other 50% are only at 50% effectiveness. Curses are only at 80% effectiveness against me, and the only elemental ailment that I have to worry about is shock, and that is going to be dealt with by getting implicits on my jewels. So that is an additional thing that I am just realizing that I missed as I was talking about it, because there's so many things that we can use to deal with this. So this is a harvest craft that you can put your jewels in to add an implicit to your jewels, and you can get reduced effect of the different ailments on you. And this can be really nice for the ailment that's like kind of annoying, but perhaps is not a killer, like shock or chill. You can get this to have reduced effect of you. So the goal that I want is on my jewels, I want to get about 50 to 70% reduced effective shock on me, and then I can kind of just ignore that. So that is the combination of me dealing with all the stuff. I've had to make sacrifices. I've had to change a couple things around, but I'm really happy with how my character is currently able to deal with ailments and curses. So that was actually a lot more content than I thought it was going to be. I know that everything kind of feels worse right now. The game is harder, and everyone ends up kind of playing. People are just flocking to the things that seem the strongest right now, and I totally understand. I think we're just in an adjustment period. We have to learn all of the stuff that's in there. I do think they were a little more heavy-handed than they had to be, but I do appreciate the new design space that we have in the adjustments and learning that we can do. And I hope that this knowledge can help you build characters that are more fun to play, and you can experience this Expedition League and really have fun with it. I'm loving the Expedition mechanic and the logbook mechanic, and I just want to share that with folks and hope everyone can have a lot of fun with it. So thanks for watching this video. Let me know about the things that I may have missed. There was so much stuff in here that I'm sure I missed a couple things. So I would just love to learn from you guys what else there is. And if you want to see more videos like this, please consider giving me a subscription on the old YouTube. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. I would like to give a special shout out to my patrons: Tricky Nick, Michael Johnson, Amarius, Bifrost50, Mark Hahn, Rentner, The Wrong Thing, William Lee, Aaron White, Colin, Day-R, Exferdidius, Gazer1990, Michael Rack, Mr. Doubleina, Nikolai, Sixlink Andrew, and Whoop. If you'd like to get your name in the credits of my videos and some other cool things, head over to patreon.com/subtractem. Thank you.